everybody. Shout out to GR Research just for the fun of it. Thanks for coming back. This time we're going to talk a little about Deep Purple's latest, Equals One, and why this might be kind of a -1 in some ways, and compare it a little bit to the last release, Whoosh, which had multiple #1 hits. So we'll see why it's maybe a -1 for a couple reasons. Not necessarily a bad thing. But what are we drinking this time? Oh, it says apple right here. I'll show you on my apple. This is Focus. Somebody's name I can't read. Louisville, Kentucky. 0 sugar. Focus.com. I don't know. What's that say? Somebody's name. You probably know, and you're like, oh, of course, that's this dude. But I got this one because it's so, there's no color other than K, black. Very simple, simplified, simplistic, simple design. I can smell the apple, and it smells like green apple lofting up as far away from my face. But it's just the hint. The taste is little more than the waft. Otherwise, it's just carbonated water. Assume I keep the lights dim in here to cut down on the glare on the records, and it says Focus, so I'm assuming there's caffeine in here. That's the deal. Kind of thirsty, so. But that much bubbly in there, it's gonna give me the belches. So that's very very soggy. Very soggy can. Not sponsored by Focus Energy Water. I don't know. So who all picked up this Kansas album? I can't even remember if this is the last one, the latest one. The presence of presence, the absence of presence. Tom Brishland, Phil Arhart, you know that name, Billy Greer, Ronnie Platt, David Ragsdale, Zach Risby, and Richard Williams, which you know. So, Tom Brishland, lead vocals. A big change, you know. How'd you feel about that change, that album? Well, this album got a big change. If you're a Deep Purple fan, you know Steve Moore had to step down. It's been over a year, I think, since that's happened. He was a guitarist for 20 years for Deep Purple. You know, became the guitar sound of Deep Purple. It was a big deal when Richie Blackmore passed it on, and but as most of you would probably say, it wasn't. It turned out to be an okay thing. So my favorite Deep Purple albums are recorded with Steve Morse. The band could have hung it up after that. They almost did about, what, 5 years ago, before the 4 albums ago. But Moore, most of us know his wife has passed on, but he passed on the keys of Smoke on the Water to a new dude. And I think this is their 50th year tour of Smoke on the Water, I think, coming up. But you got Irishman, Simon McBride. He blends quite well, as if he's been in this long continuing family of artists who've all played in each other's bands. Yet actually McBride has played with all these guys in Deep Purple with other projects. So he'd already played some of this music, and so he knew, how to blend and already that kind of thing, and he does quite well. But it's just kind of interesting to have somebody that seems like such an outsider. It's like, how's this dude gonna do? And we'll see. Time will tell, and the length of his hair will tell as to whether this is a long-term thing or not. You got hair, grow it, dude. But Don Airey, he's sessioned with Sabbath. He's in Coliseum too. Played with Whitesnake. Sessioned with Ozzy. Steve Morse and the Dixie Dregs. And man, Kansas Power. I remember when that album came out, it was at least controversial to me, because, such a fan of Elefante and everything in those albums, and things changed so much. That was like a drastic change. It's like kind of this Kansas album, it's just the way it's been with Kansas. It seems like it's like, is this Kansas? Can we call this Kansas? How dare they? And I ended up liking the Power album. It was a very strong album, and in some ways that strength was kind of a negative to me. It's like thumbing their nose, at early, the Kerry Livgren day, the early days of Kansas and everything. But didn't think anything of that with Deep Purple. Very strong guitar player. You didn't need Blackmore, Blackmore, his guitar tone was of the day, that kind of more country tone. Whereas Morris was just rock and roll, but Deep Purple being so bluesy, Blackmore had that soul from, classical soul, which really gave Deep Purple a lot of feeling. And then Morris was just able to be, I think, more flexible with everything, I think. Joe Lynn Turner was a singer with Yngwie. Blackmore famously, infamously, if you feel, went on to do Rainbow, which, man, you know, Richie Blackmore and Ronnie James Dio. What a combination. You know, that's passion there. Satriani, Joe Satriani was offered to replace Blackmore. And I think he was a little too, I think he felt like he was probably a little too metal for them. And, you know, it's good that, you know, he didn't do, you know, he went on and did his thing, you know. But Don Airy has had some really clean, spacey electronic keyboard sounds, like with Coliseum. But of course, he uses a variety of keys. And on this album, you hear a variety of sounds, especially. But overall, to me, it's not as raw sounding as I'd prefer. I'd like to hear, you know, he's got that. I'm being nitpicky here, really. This is a nitpicky detail, but he's got that signature Hammond, Leslie, and Marshall massive, what's turned into be a rock and roll keyboard sound, and I wanted to hear it be a little more powerful. And I don't know if Ezrin was wanting, or if they were wanting to bring up the guitar a little bit more, or if that just happened. It's not like a volume difference. It's just as far as the rock and roll tone is coming more so from the guitar than the keys on this. I'm just being real nitpicky. May not even think about it that way, but as far as it being a raw rock and roll sound, really grimy is what it could be. It's not, but Bob Ezrin makes it sound perfect. You know, it's not really too clean. It's just to where it's one of those things, if you don't notice it, it's a good thing kind of a thing. It's kind of that. But, you know, McBride has a slight difference in tone with the Engel guitar amps. And so it, you know, it differentiates the two of them. And they just blend so well together, and you hear them, you can tell they're having a good time playing off each other, and just the right amounts, just the right ways. He blends in magnificently. Especially, I think this is kind of a key point to it all, is that he's a shredding blues guy. And like I said, you know, it's like, well, we'll see, you know, a couple hour albums down if you're still around, right? That's the fear. Or it's like, well, are they going to go out with just this dude on one album? You know, the ninth iteration of the band, the fourth lead guitarist. I don't know. It's an interesting thing. And for that matter, nobody's said this, and I don't think it's morbid really, but, you know, Morris' issue has in a way been dealt with, but at the same time, I don't know, you know, I mean, it can take a long time to process some things, you know, and deal with things. And this guy's great. He's younger. It's easier for him to tour. And if, I don't know, if other than the drums, you know, if he's doing so much work, you know, not like this is a punk band or anything. But this box set, we'll see if you think it's worth the money. I'm going to say the album alone is probably worth it. But we'll see. It came with these matching 3 EPs, 10-inch. And this is recordings of the 2022 tour. So you can get a feel for what just reading who is writing these. Recorded in Milan, 2022. What their tour would have sounded like a year ago. And it's what you would expect pretty much. 2 tracks on each side. Now, I've been messing with records for a long time, and I don't know if you're the kind of person that's been doing it so long that you kind of have a thing. You pull it out, you got your finger in the spindle hole there, and you got your way of holding it, and then it's a little more. My arthritis is getting to me. It's making it more difficult for me to flip records around. But here, I'm in the store making the record store people nervous because I pull a record out, look at it, flip it around, look at it. I've been doing this a long time. And sure enough, I picked the record up to flip it over, put it on the other side. And I'm trying to, of course, keep my fingers off the grooves. And sure enough, it slips off my finger and goes to the floor. And on its way, if you've seen my turntable, it's got pillars on it. And it could have been the tone arm just as well. Headstock, whatever. And sure enough, it skates across that aluminum piece and puts a couple of, I'm like, oh man, dust is one thing off the floor. And, but sure enough, a couple of little notches, didn't hear them at all. In fact, I was going to show you, but I can't even find the 2 little marks now. I don't know which record it was on. But I was going to show one other thing on here. I guess I could show on something else. And put this up for display. And I hope it doesn't fall down and that the glare is not crazy and everything. But on those albums, it's got songs from Machine Head, of course, Fireball, Whoosh. It's got 7 and 7 is I Love. So they do a cover song. And what was I going to say about that? But let's look at this last box before we move forward. This is heavy. Nicely done. The t-shirt looks kind of like this. And there are also 10 inches. They kind of did the same thing with this one. And can't notice, it's almost kind of full color. But, the album cover, what else is in here? Vacuum packed by me. I don't think there's anything else in here. I wouldn't have put the record in there so flat, and it wouldn't be vacuum packed in there. But the album, which is 2 albums probably, and it came with one previously unreleased song, Throw My Bones, Man Alive. And this came later. Pressing issues. It came later. And then it came again later, like a year later. The record store called me. Steve, we have this record down here. And I think she knew that it was a duplicate. I don't know, because I think she asked me if I wanted it still. I'm like, well, why not? You know, I mean, I'm sure there's some homeless person out there that really needs that record, and I have it, and he doesn't, and he really needs that album. I don't know. Let me know if you know the guy that needs that extra 10-inch. I mean, for real, or might have went to some of the wrong people. I don't know, but cool looking packaging. You know, not a huge deal. But, hey, how'd this get in here? Record collector news, Johnny Cash. Huh. No, this was not included. I'm not showing you what's in here. This was not included in any of the boxes. Hey, Jim. You're my hero. Oh, man. So, what does this FSKAB0 mean on here? Well, that means this DVD here is suitable for all ages. There's a, to me, access all areas. There's a, to me, it's a little short. It's like an hour long, and it's cool. You know, it's cool. But there's a whole lot of other stuff online that could have been on here. You know, I would have liked to have seen a lot more on not just McBride, you know, but a lot more on McBride. It's a cool video, you know, and I mean, I guess with everybody's short attention spans, anything longer than 60 seconds is too much compared to 60 minutes. But here we've got lyrics and an advert. I don't think that Infinite is still available online. But, hey, there's some color, especially purple. But when I got this and opened it up, I was like, cool, I got the new Deep Purple, and, you know, what is that? Why? It's like which one was it? The Fast and Furious. They put out a movie, and it's so ridiculously over the top, spy film or whatever, trying to be 007, that it's so ridiculous and absurd that it's like, are you trying to kill off the franchise? You know, you could have made a cool movie. You go to all that trouble. It's a car movie. Why are you making all this ridiculous stunts that have nothing to do with racing or anything like that and that kind of stuff? That's how I kind of felt when I got this. I'm like, why did you? It feels like to me, it just felt like you mailed it in. I thought, oh well, this is not embossed, but relief. It's just thick ink, you know. So I don't think it cost any more to make that raise. Just a way of printing the ink, I think. But even then, if you spend all the just making it, oh, it's textured, you know, I don't know. I'm an artist, and that kind of stuff. something to me. Uh, Maybe you've seen the teaser with this complex equation. So the concept of this album is that in an increasingly complex world, eventually everything simplifies down to one essence. And if you're like me, you know that, and there's one creator God behind all that is good, by the way. And if you're familiar with the CMYK, which I dealt with for years and years, that was my world. You got cyan, magenta, yellow, and key, K-E-Y. It's not the K in black for an odd reason, you know. It could have been B, right? You know, CMYB. But that's key, meaning that if all of your, you know, let's say you're printing something that's got more than one color on it, and you're matching those colors up. So those colors, you know, you've got 4 different colors, and if they're not in alignment, it's just going to be blurry, right? So your key is off here, it gets cut off in the printing process, and that key is a plus, and then you match it up on all 4 corners, and that's the key, you know, and it's black. It's precise, and when those lines match up, the colors are going to be matched up, and it's all good to print. Or as you can see here, you know, if you subtract, let's say you got the poster here, or flat, whatever you want to call this. The, what do they call it? An art print. You subtract CMY, cyan, magenta, and yellow, and all you got is K. All you got is black, right? What am I going to do with this? I don't know. It's kind of cool, but there's not one picture of the band, you know, and that really bothers me. So this here is some of the only color, and it's interesting that they did that in a way, and it is a good color match, kind of a sepia or whatever, kind of a dull, almost goldish purple. It's probably one color, so this is probably 2-color print, I'm going to guess, spot color, because that's all they needed. Now, that's way cheaper, you know. Now, how much way cheaper, I don't know anymore, but once again, if you're like me, you know, I set this down and it folded over when I laid it down on my desk, and that bothers me a big deal. So I'll probably always remember that. Oh yeah, that, because they stuck one little sticky thing right here in the middle, and it was kind of loose otherwise, which made it easier to take off. But it might as well been printed on the back of the box, you know. But I'm sure that was cheaper and easier to do. So once again, it's kind of relief. It's got a light spot gloss on here. Yeah, okay. I was gonna bring in my. Just remembered I was gonna bring in my Voivod album. black and white, but there's some cool artwork on there, and it kind of makes up for it. And in space, that's the thing, you know. How much color is there in space? If you look at the pictures we get, there's a lot of color, right? So I don't know. Well, you got two 45s here. And so, this is where the credits are and stuff. Just written out, which I think handwriting text is kind of cool. It's usually cool. So real simple. Custom labels. So you got two discs, and they could have made this. They could have made this one LP, and I didn't think about which tracks they could have cut. They could have cut anything. But if they just knocked off the last 10 minutes and stuck it on one 45-minute album, it would have been a shame. It'd be a shame. I don't know. I don't know if this comes as a single or a double disc normally. As little as they spent on printing this thing, it's probably a double LP if you buy the vinyl, I assume. But you would have lost that. You would have lost the closing proggy jammer, Bleeding Obvious. Really cool song, a good one to end on. You know, I mean, as you do a rock and roll album, leave with a banger, you know, and it's real interesting. You know, it's not the greatest song on the album, but it's one of the interesting songs because of the timing on there, the rhythms and everything is really odd timing and stuff. And then the second to last track, beautiful ballad, I'll Catch You. And I got to read those lyrics because they're some pretty cool lyrics. I guess that it's to be expected when I have to talk this way. I'd be reading this easier if I could see it better, but so... but it's like people trying to read my writing. When I have to speak in tongues, I want to say what can't be said. I have to keep a straight face when I'm breaking up inside. If you know who knew what I thought. If you know who knew what I thought. If you know who knew what I thought. Knew what I thought, you know. Then we'd both be crucified. I dream about you every night, but you're just beyond my reach. So now you never know my touch, and we shall never meet. It sounds like Ian Gillan line, huh? Thought, you know, a song. Mother Nature's keeping her socks on. Father Time's gonna be late. Ships at night are passing silently, and our love will have to wait. My bags are always ready. There's a rock and roll line for you. My keys are in the car. Anytime you want to jump, I'll catch you in my arms. I'll catch you in my arms. Anytime you want to jump, I'll catch you in my arms. Some good, you know, not his best lyrics. You know, I mean, you got a song like Mitzi Dupree and that kind of stuff, and it's so mineral. Even though someone like me, I'm like, what a terrible, in a way, it's like, yeah, I can identify. I've met that person before, but that's not the person I'm looking for. you know, and yet you kind of identify, and yet you don't want that to be the world. You know, you don't want things to be that way. You know, a hard life, you know, two people having a hard life, they don't ever get together because they're both involved in a hard life, and, you know, holy cow. But it's a passionate song, you know, partly just from that natural feeling we have of attraction, you know, and he captures those feelings so well. You know, Deep Purple are one of those bands where any good lyrics are a bonus to the music to me, because I'm about the music, and anytime someone's able to be poetic and say something important or meaningful, man, it's a bonus, you know, and it's memorable. It makes it more memorable, makes it more enjoyable, more identifiable, you know. And Deep Purple, Perfect Strangers, man, that song gets me every stinking time. It's one of my all-time favorite rock and roll songs. The House of Blue Lights. I have that album. I bought it. It hasn't been too many years since I bought that, and I can't find it. But that's kind of about equal par with Perfect Strangers. Might even be a better album overall. I don't know. There's some great songs on there. And those were, you know, if I remember correctly, those are Blackmore songs, the pop days or whatever. But Gillan is a pen master and has always enjoyed being clever. But what I like about him, and it adds to the feeling of his vocals a great deal, is that it's a little quirky, a lot quirky maybe, nonchalant. It's just the way things are, you know. And he's always had that bluesy passion, you know, which has just always made, I think, really captured everybody over the years. A couple of things that were in this before we move on is that they included a lanyard with the to encourage you to go to the show. Well, I could have included a backstage pass. Actually, I think that's the reason for this lanyard in there, because some lucky winner of the box purchase is going to get a free ticket to every show. And you wouldn't have, and probably wouldn't have to, but you'd have the chance to be able to pick up some of these picks off the floor. And they're signed, and I didn't look to see who they're signed by, but you could imagine. I wish I had looked it up, because you're going to be like, oh, of course, this is this dude. And I mean, who else would it be but a guitarist and bass player, right? So that's kind of cool. And they actually they spent all their money making these little pick pillows to stick them in there. But there's a couple of great songs on there. Pictures of You could have been a Perfect Stranger song with its ascending, descending scale. Super catchy. That always catchy. Some bands are able to get away with it all the time. You know, Iron Maiden, or, you know, every time they do a song like that, and they'll have a whole album that's got that in it. Every song's catchy, you know. This album has a lot of variety on it. And once again, those guitars You know, I didn't want to like this guy. I'm like, who is this guy? You know, portable door, strange term. What the heck, portable door? What are you talking about? You know, it's like you've seen those onesies that people used to wear to sleep in, and they got the back door you can unbutton, whatever. But what it's talking about is a way, you know, like I said, this album is about, you know, life's chaotic, but it all comes down to one, you know, and we're all one people is kind of the thinking, you know, in one way. Or it just devolves into one thing, or it's everything's made out of atoms or whatever you want to say. But portable door is a way to escape everyday chaos. What the means that you have, the door is the means that you have that you carry around with you, or that you're able to use whenever you need to escape life's everyday chaos. For me, one way is, you know, the obvious is throwing on a record, you know, but cruising downtown with the radio on and the windows down, that does it. You know, for me, since I've had so many issues with my car over the years, it's white knuckle driving, and the freedom in it is that it's my freaking car. It's original. No one has one like mine. And I've got the freedom to put some gas in there and go wherever I want to go. You know, drive on the right side of the road. But I could go to Kansas if I wanted. It'll probably make it. But no, I got a car that'll make it to, probably make it to Oklahoma and back, I think. I don't know. But anyway, just cruising. You know, I mean, if I'm cruising far enough that I can afford a tow truck back home, and, you know, we're good to go. But how about you? What's your portable door? You know, is it just throwing on a record? What else is it for you? Is it cruising down the road, windows down, T-tops out? What is it? Let us know in the comments below. And while we're talking about such things, go ahead and subscribe. And I was trying to do this opposite. Hit the like button, you know. You know, all that good stuff. And more importantly, go out there and use what God blessed you with to do something cool for someone else. Right on. Right on.